The beeping was the only thing that was real. A slow, tired rhythm that counted down the final seconds of her life. Adelina Bell stared at the ceiling, at a water stain that looked like a weeping angel. It had been her only companion for weeks. Adelina pushed the door open, her rubber-soled shoes squeaking against the linoleum. She changed the IV bag with practiced efficiency, her eyes full of the kind of pity that doesn't really see you. A ghost in a blue uniform, tending to a body that was already gone. She didn't speak, she never did. The door clicked shut, and the silence rushed back in. Adelina's gaze drifted to the nightstand. No flowers, no cards. Just a glass of water with a film on top and a single piece of paper, crumpled from 1,000 desperate readings. The infertility report. The 2 words that had been her death sentence, long before the cancer. Her fingers, thin as bird talons, reached for the paper. The texture was soft, worn down by the sweat and tears of her shame. A sound in the hallway, footsteps, her breath hitched. A surge of something hot and impossible flooded her chest. Garrett. She tried to push herself up on her elbows, a pathetic, weak movement. The door swung open. It wasn't him. The man who stood in the doorway was a stranger. He was tall, dressed in a dark overcoat that seemed to absorb the weak light of the room. His face was all sharp angles and shadows, his jaws set like stone. He looked like he belonged in a storm, not a hospital room. His eyes, a cold clear gray, swept over the barren room, lingering for a second on the empty visitor's chair before landing on her. The line of his mouth tightened. He walked toward the bed, his steps silent and deliberate. Up close, she saw the exhaustion etched around his eyes. A deep, profound pain that mirrored her own, but for reasons she couldn't guess. It wasn't pity. It was something closer to self-reproach. His voice was low, rough, like stones grinding together. "I'm Dr. Douglas Ward, Beryl Terry's ex, fiancée." Alina's world tilted. Beryl, her adoptive sister. The woman who had taken her fiancé, Garrett. The woman who had gotten pregnant when Adelina couldn't. Douglas reached inside his coat and pulled out a manila envelope. He held it with a kind of rigid control, as if it might burst into flames. "There are some things you should know," he said, his voice flat. Before the end, he placed the envelope on the thin blanket covering her legs. Her hands shook as she fumbled with the clasp. Inside was a single sheet of paper. A medical report. But the name at the top wasn't Adelina Bell. It was Garrett Stein. Douglas's next words felt like ice picks driving into her ears. "Garrett Stein's sperm viability is 0. It always has been. He's incapable of fathering a child." The air left her lungs. The beeping of the heart monitor seemed to fade into a dull hum. She couldn't form a thought. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. "The baby," Douglas continued, his voice even colder, devoid of any emotion. "The one Beryl is carrying. It isn't his." The report in her hand crinkled as her fist clenched, the sound like a gunshot in the silent room. A dam broke. 20 years of memories flooded in, drowning her. Her adoptive parents' disappointed glances. Garrett's cold withdrawal. Beryl's triumphant, pitying smiles. All of it. Every last humiliation. Her entire life had been a cage built from a single lie. And she was the only one who hadn't known. A tear escaped her eye, hot and sharp. It wasn't for the life she was losing. It was for the life that had been stolen from her. The anger was a physical thing, a fire in her gut, burning away the sickness, the weakness, the despair. With a strength she hadn't possessed in months, she shot her hand out and grabbed his wrist. Her grip was so tight he flinched, his cool gray eyes widening in surprise. Her voice was a raw, broken whisper. Why are you telling me this now?" He looked down at her hand on his arm, then back to her face. His throat worked. "Because I just found out myself," he said, and for the first time, a crack appeared in his stone facade. "I have my own regrets." The heart monitor shrieked. A sudden violent alarm. The steady rhythm shattered into a frantic chaotic scramble. A crushing weight slammed into Adelina's chest. The strength vanished, leaving her gasping. But her mind was clearer than it had ever been. She stared at Douglas Ward's face, a face she'd never seen before today, and felt a bizarre, wrenching sense of loss. If I just had one more chance. The monitor's frantic beeping gave way to a single, unending tone. The line on the screen went flat. Darkness swallowed everything. And then, a brilliant, searing flash of white light. Adelina took a breath, and it felt like swallowing fire and ice. Her lungs burned. She choked, a deep, ragged gasp, like a drowning victim breaking the surface. Her eyes flew open, not the water-stained ceiling of the hospital. It was her own ceiling, the one in her childhood bedroom, with the faint hairline crack that ran from the light fixture to the corner. She stared, unblinking. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a wild, frantic drumbeat. Slowly she turned her head. The wall was covered in posters of bands she hadn't thought about in years. Her desk was cluttered with textbooks. And on the wall, hanging from a thumbtack, was a calendar. Her eyes focused on the date, the numbers sharp and clear. March 15, 2019. The day it all went wrong. A strangled sob escaped her lips. She scrambled out of bed, her legs unsteady, and stumbled to the full-length mirror on her closet door. The face staring back wasn't the gaunt, sallow mask of a dying woman. It was her, 21 years old. Her cheeks were full, her eyes were clear, her hair was long and thick. There were no shadows of sickness, no trace of death. She raised a trembling hand and pressed her fingers against her cheek. The skin was warm, solid, real. It wasn't a dray.